Well, that's how some authors feel about the movies that they have made from books that they wrote.
But our next guest found some great examples where the authors are pleased with the adaptations. And Carole Barrowman is here. She's an English professor and reviews books for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Carole, I'm so excited to talk to you about movies and books.
I know.
See you again.
Nice to see you
so
again.
Long.
I know, it's been a long time. I know, when I saw that you were co-hosting this morning, I thought, well, let's pick a topic that Ryan can get some his teeth into.
Because you know, I'm not reading much with all the movies I'm seeing, right?
I know that. I have a solution to that problem. Don't travel with your kids if that meant much paparazzi goes with you.
Right, but think about, could she ever travel then? She could never travel.
Well, but then she'd have to separate, maybe send a nanny with the kids or something like that.
She's got the money, I suppose, to separate
them. They do
them.
with Surrey Cruise, they send a decoy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sad to have to do that, though. You want to travel with your children.
I know, of course you do. Of course you do.
Okay, so books that have been turned into movies, you found some where the authors are actually happy with what the result was.
I did, which is really amazing because, you know, I know as readers, sometimes we say, oh, the movie is never as good as the book. I just think they're different. They're very different mediums, and so
don't judge them against each other?
I guess it's, you know, don't judge them against each other.
I agree with you. They're such different beasts, and you have to make changes often to books in order to adapt it to a film. It's a completely different medium.
It's visual.
Yeah, and so my first book that I picked was Elmore Leonard's Out of Sight. And it is an awesome, really fast, very cinematic in his writing. And Elmore Leonard is one of these writers who never uses an adverb.
Wow.
All his writing is incredibly fast-paced. It's very dialogue-driven, and it's so sexy. This is a sexy book and a sexy movie. You
can tell by the lighting in general.
Yeah, directed by Steven Soderbergh, who won the Oscar for directing Traffic. He also did Aaron Brockovich. And are there a lot of changes? I didn't read this book. Is it very different?
It's exactly the same. It is almost word for word. There is dialogue from the book that J-Lo, this was one of her first movies, and of course George Clooney was in this, and it's almost word for word for the book. And honestly, it's as sexy a read as it is a film.
Wow.
There's a whole scene in this film at the beginning where Clooney and J-Lo are trapped in the trunk of a car, and oh my gosh, whew, it's hot stuff.
Nice.
Hot stuff.
Okay.
Next book is Mystic River, Dennis Lehane.
And my question is, we move on to this one, is it up to the author? Is it because the author's writing is so good that the movie was so close to the actual book? Or is this really just a director's preference?
It's a director's preference because very often the writer has no control over what happens with the book once it goes forward.
Once a studio's involved and a director, there's so many cooks in the kitchen, as they say.
Right. There's no... And Mystic River, though, it's interesting. Dennis Lehane himself said it wasn't until Clint Eastwood came and talked to him, because Clint Eastwood made the film. He said it wasn't until Clint Eastwood talked to him and told him what his vision was for the movie that he actually signed over the rights to it.
Yeah, because he didn't want to.
He did not want to. He knew Hollywood very often can destroy the soul of a book, and he did not want to send his book out there until Clint Eastwood talked him into it.
Similarly, I know J.K. Rowling was the same way in signing off the rights to her Harry Potter series. She wanted to make sure that the studio would really be respectful, and whatever directors they brought in would be respectful.
And Mystic River is just such a stunning book. I think Dennis Lehane is one of our best American writers, and I think Clint Eastwood really did justice to this book.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah,
sad, but
Your next one, Children of Men by P.D. James. This is one that you teach at the beginning of your lit classes.
I teach this in my one of my introductory lit classes, and I love this book. This book is very epic in its size, and it covers a great story. What if the world could no longer have children? What would the world be like? And P.D. James is an English author, and she's sort of, it's set in a dystopian future, and she followed that through with a very big story. In the film, they narrow it down to a very small part of the book, but she still liked it because she said that the filmmaker really captured the essence of her book.
This is director Alfonso Cuarón, who's one of my favorite directors. He did the third Harry Potter film, and he also did another book adaptation, A Little Princess.
Yes,
which
wonderful
is
film.
Amazing, right?
Yep, fabulous. And the nice thing is Clive Owens is in the film, and it's
Julianne
great.
Moore.
Julianne Moore, it's great.
Super intense, science fiction.
Very dark, and I always tell my students after that they need to have some Kleenexes with them.
Yes.
Because it's such a sad ending. Oh, a real tearjerker, but
it's
a beautiful story, really nice story.
Okay, so I have a question for both of you before we go on to the next one. Is do you think that books make better movies or screenplays make better movies? Do you think that there's a line there? Is it really up in the air?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question. I've never really thought of that in that way. I think that if you have the subject matter in a book, you're still going to have a good screenwriter.
Yeah.
I think it all, because movies are so much visual and about pacing too.
Right.
And in fact, that P.D. James novel is actually it's a slow read, but in a good way, if you know what I mean. Like, you get involved in it, and it takes you time to get into it. Whereas this movie is a thriller.
I want to get your other book in too, though, Empire of the Sun.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. And this is Christian Bale's first movie, and this is a writer, J.G. Ballard, that not a lot of people read. This would be a great book club movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very...
And directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yep, he wrote it, and it's like in the late 80s the book came out, the film early 90s maybe. And it's a film set in China about a young boy who gets separated from his family when the Japanese attack after World War II, and he has to live in a prison camp, and it's all his experience. It's a fabulous film.
So good. I want to read it.
Really good. Good book too.
Okay, well, these are good picks in terms of the books that have been made into very good movies, that the authors are happy. You can follow Carole, CaroleBarrowman.com on Facebook, Twitter, and Goodreads. Thanks for being here, Carole.
Thanks for
Always a
having
pleasure.
me. It's nice to be here. Thanks for
fun.
inviting me again.
You're welcome.